Former President Trump went on an all-caps tirade on his platform Truth Social today, arguing that a U.S. president must have full immunity from prosecution. Trump wrote, "A president of the United States must have full immunity, without which it would be impossible for him or her to properly function. Any mistake, even if well-intended, would be met with almost certain indictment by the opposing party at term end. Even events that cross the line must fall under total immunity, or it will be years of trauma trying to determine good from bad." He added, "There must be certainty."
Trump's post comes a week after his lawyer tried to argue that presidents could only be prosecuted if they had already been impeached and convicted by the Senate. One judge on the panel determining whether to toss out Trump's federal election interference charges noted that if taken to its logical extreme, a president could take any action on his last day in office without fear of criminal prosecution, or simply resign shortly thereafter, preventing Congress from impeaching and convicting in time. Former MSNBC host Mehdi Hasan responded to Trump's post, writing, "There is only one story that matters in domestic American politics. The GOP frontrunner for president believes he should have total immunity from prosecution, even for events that cross the line," his words. And he plans to be a dictator, but only for a day. Phew, his words.
I don't know that it's fair to say that should be the only story out there, the only reason to base a vote, but it is obviously indefensible, and frankly, I haven't even seen anyone on the right try to defend it. The immediate, what you're confronted with, if you embrace this, is, does that mean Joe Biden's authority is totally limitless? Could he order the Secret Service to go shoot Donald Trump and we couldn't do anything because the president has full legal immunity? What if he started on January 6th grounds? He's putting down an insurrectionist, and there's going to be no scrutiny of that. I mean, it obviously is laughable. No conservative would take that position that Joe Biden should be totally shielded from criminal proceedings. We don't, broadly speaking, we shouldn't want to make our political leaders more safe from such things, less accountable to the justice system. We want to hold government employees, I do at least, more accountable. Qualified immunity, this is kind of related to this doctrine that when certain government officials are acting in their official capacities, you can't, even if they violate your rights or do something wrong, you can sue the agency or something, but you can't hold that person accountable. It comes up a lot in police stuff, because police are a sympathetic group to the right, there is some appetite for vigorously protecting qualified immunity. But I always point out, but that's the same thing that protects, an administrator in a school who violates your free speech rights or something like that. You can't do anything. They're shielded by that same. It's a general shield for government employees that shouldn't exist.
So you mentioned that not many people have defended this particular statement. This statement is new, just a few tweeted or truthed out a few hours ago, as I understand it. But people have been defending statements of this kind that Donald Trump has been making for some time. Of course, this whole narrative that Donald Trump is a dictator who's not going to step it down is because he said in multiple interviews and speeches now, "I will be a dictator on day one." When Sean Hannity tried to give him an off-ramp from those statements, he doubled down saying, "I will be a dictator on day one." And as we mentioned in the read, in one of his election interference cases, his attorneys have made this argument that if it followed to its logical conclusion, would mean that because if you hinge your ability to prosecute a former president on their impeachment, you can simply avoid impeachment by stepping down or doing something dastardly on your last day before you drop you're out of office, and then have complete and total immunity for anything done within the scope of your employment, even if the thing that's done within the scope of your employment, like ordering a hit on your political enemy, is plainly illegal, immoral, and unethical. So you cannot piecemeal this out. This isn't about one tweet. And as much as Democrats have been in some cases alarmist about the threats to democracy, it is not alarmism when you're looking at Trump repeatedly making statements and his attorneys repeatedly making statements that argue that he is beyond legal reproach.
Yeah, all Americans should want these arguments to fail in court, because it's not about Donald Trump specifically. We can't give anyone holding the office of presidency unlimited authority to do whatever they want. That totally flies in the face of the constitutional system we set up specifically not to have a dictator or a king, but to have a very weak executive who I think, unfortunately, the office of the executive has accrued more powers than it was intended to have by our founders, and that has led to a lot of violations of our civil liberties and a lot of, frankly, foreign policy decisions that were intended to be left to Congress in the original thinking. But regardless, it would be an insane escalation. It would be the slippery slope, be tobogganing down it like mad to give the president. I mean, it's laughable. So no one should defend this. It's not about Trump. On the dictator comments, I think what he was trying to say, although you don't have to be put at ease because of it, was that he was going to do a lot of executive orders relating to the border and other matters on day one, which is akin to what I don't like this. I don't like executive orders. I don't think governing by fiat is good, but is akin to the kind of things that every president has done on their first day, or at least our last 4 presidents. But people don't have to take comfort in that. The theory that Trump is advancing ought to be rejected by the court at every level.
It's worth noting that Iowa caucus polls show that 3 in 10 caucus goers saw Trump as unfit if he were convicted of one of these crimes. It's a kind of a soft barometer for how important people are seeing election denialism. But that number to many Democrats is going to seem too low, given that, again, we're seeing these kind of authoritarian statements coming out of Donald Trump. I mean, the irony is that Democrats, in some ways, cried wolf, characterizing Donald Trump's existence as early as 2016 as a threat to democracy. Now that, frankly, he is gesturing at genuine threats to democracy, I'm concerned that, frankly, they don't have any credibility, basically, to make this case. I saw...
well, and they also don't have any, their credibility of some people in the Democratic coalition is a little bit underwater because there was, Hillary, it's not making an equivalency about it, but Hillary attributed her loss to, Russian interference, said the election wasn't fair. People like Stacey Abrams have done that. So much routine, even like Chris Hayes advanced a theory about
Robby,
how the electors could
I know you're not
it.
saying it's an equivalency, and I'm very happy to criticize Hillary Clinton, and did at the time as someone who very proudly did not vote for her in 2016 and who felt like the DNC was rigging the primary in 2016. Not felt like, it was substantiated. Donna Brazile talked about it. It's, it's on the record. However, that is a radically different thing. It's bad. But it is a radically different thing than what Donald Trump has been accused of, which is to foment a plot to overturn the election results.
So I said it was not equivalency. I agree.
And moreover, to continue to say things like, I should have complete and total immunity, and have your lawyers arguing that I could kill my political opponent and still be immune from prosecution, from criminal prosecution. Can you imagine if a Democrat, if Joe Biden, who is actually president right now with the power to ostensibly order a hit, God forbid, on his political opponents, were making those kinds of arguments? Republicans would rightly be up in arms about that being a coercive threat to Donald Trump and his presidency. And yet, here Donald Trump is making that argument, simultaneously trying to make the case that Joe Biden is the corrupt party through the scandal, alleged scandal with his son, and that they should pick him as the more stabilizing, equitable, righteous force here. This is why so many Americans are disaffected and are unsatisfied with both of these choices on either side of the aisle.
Yeah, what else can I say? I am not a supporter of Trump for many reasons, including that he embraces a theory of unlimited power for the executive, something we cannot allow to happen, and that, again, I have not seen specifically conservatives defending it, but if anyone is defending it, I would just say, so does Joe Biden have this? Like, he is the president right now. If you're arguing the office of the presidency has this power, then Joe Biden has this power. Is that really what we think? And not a single person would say yes. So. More Rising right after this.